Thank you so much for tuning in and welcome to your very own Tribe Before You Buy channel with your host Karamullah Kadwani. Let's say we are going to start this conversation on a different note. Perhaps it's how I'm feeling today. So today's fragrance is going to be for the one who has been through a lot, not just in his or her fragrance journey of course, but also for the true fragrance connoisseur who's had his fair share in life. The ups, downs, heartbreaks, etc. The one who is empathetic and for someone you can have long conversations with. It's who you are when no one's watching you. Fragrance is a part of our personality and can become an aura for some, for whom the scent you choose may speak volumes for who they truly are. Having said that, today is going to be all about Chergui from the House of Serge Lutens, and the nose behind all the fragrances for the House of Serge Lutens. Unless I'm wrong, please do fill in your comments to let me know if my understanding is not correct. So the nose for the House of Serge Lutens is Christopher Chergui, and I consider him a master perfumer. I really can't comment on what the compositions for this house used to be like in the past, vintage reference like you may say, but the one thing I can tell you straight off the bat is that they introduced Amber Sultan, people refer to nowadays as the reference amber fragrance, but it was released way ahead of its time when it was first launched in 1993. This is the composition on which, in my humble opinion, Tom Ford launched Amber Absolute in 2007. Some 14 years later, just to tell you how timeless this masterpiece truly is. It's still in the conversation, and I'm yet to see a top 10 amber fragrance video without the mention of Amber Sultan, to say the least. Other gems from this collection, Entrée de Fumée, Fumerie Turque, and Chergui, the one we're going to be talking about today. The nose behind Amber Absolute by the House of Tom Ford, by the way, just off the record, is Christophe Lorimer. In my opinion, another perfumer to look out for. So I've usually said this, that perfume creations are an art, and the perfumers creating these fragrances, the artist. If you like a certain composition, try to learn more about the perfumer and the different compositions he or she have created, as I've seen a thread, kind of like a signature, a blueprint, maybe a DNA, as we say sometimes. The deeper you dwell, the higher you may rise. Chergui by Serge Lutens is an oriental spicy fragrance for men and women. Chergui was launched in 2001. This will be an in-depth review. So before we get started though, if this is the kind of the content you like, please do like, share and subscribe to my channel, as the channel and I are, we're now at 3,500 subscribers, I'd like to say. But I want to see this grow. I still consider it in the very infant stages, and I would love to see it grow. As I've noticed, 80% of my viewers aren't subscribing to my channel, watching the ads and commenting helps the algorithm, and in the long run inshallah will help my channel, as we pay full retails on my perfumes and fragrances, and I do not have any other means of acquiring them, as I do not land on the free bottle brigade. So let's start by saying Chergui is an Arabic name for the wind that blows easterly over Morocco, coming from the Sahara Desert and maybe other regions as well. So I've never visited Morocco, to say the least, but Marrakesh, I'd love to travel to Morocco someday. There's this reference of hot air blowing over the desert. It has this aura of mystique and romance. And I guess Marrakesh is the city of romance. if I may say. I'm not sure if you've been there, if you visited Marrakesh, or if you've been to Morocco. Please do let me know a few details in the comments below. So it has this aura of mystique and romance, I guess, is where Christopher Sheldrake takes his inspiration from for his masterpiece. Some people may reference Dio Om as being for a mature nose. I'd start that as the reference point and say that this is a notch above that, where it's safe to say that it may perhaps not be the most exotic or challenging scent profiles that I've come across, but I'm sure if you're getting into niche or perhaps the more artisan kind of perfumes, this may put you off at first sniff, as it may come off rather medicinal, herbal, dry-like, and the opening could be very harsh to a nose that is more used to the designer perfumes or the blue fragrances or the more easygoing compositions. It comes off very thick and multi-layered. Very spicy opening with iris, tobacco, hay, musk, and a very dark gothic rose. I can imagine a black rose, if that's a thing. Very powdery. The iris is just amazing. Felt like no other back in the day. Very thick, rich and powdery, but rather complex. So to break this fragrance down is extremely difficult. Very complex and crafted to perfection. A true masterpiece, you may call it. So say after the first 30 minutes of you spraying this, you get this full-bodied honey that is not resinous. But at the center of this creation, you are engulfed with this gothic dark-like rose, very rich and opulent. So a kind of contrast that creates a balance. Iris, powdery nuances, honey, and deep, dark, rich rose. The hay note though kind of stops this composition from going very gourmand, sticky like. Extremely dry, very opulent and charismatic tobacco scent, not resinous. From here on 2 hours, you'll get a note of the incense making it smoky and goes from dry powdery to extremely creamy with the sandalwood. Iris and musks keep the fragrance clean yet sensual and keep the honey from going into a dirty or sleazy direction. It has these leathery undertones. So picturize this. You're in a lounge with leather sofa smoking away a scented pipe tobacco in conversation with this very elegant, pretty, intellectual member of the opposite sex who is wearing this powdery makeup. The hay holds this fragrance together along with the rose and iris. That feeling of smoking that pipe tobacco with these thick clouds of smoke engulfing all your senses, blended to perfection. Do not easily say this for all my reviews. No expense has been spared on the materials used. Use of hay is just a masterstroke. Who would have thought back in the day of using the hay note to prevent it from going off into another direction? It's more commonly used at present times. The tobacco note here may remind you of Aramis Tobacco Reserve, which has now been long discontinued. It's like all these different notes come together like a bittersweet symphony, and the rose, not to mention with the amber, may remind you of Amber Nuit from the Dior Privé line. That one is not as dry and dark a composition as this one may come off to be. That one is more bright, joyous, effervescent like, if that makes sense. This one is drier, darker, more arid like. If you do not like extremely rich and fuller, more opulent powdery scents, suggest you stay away from this one. It performs to the T, but you must be dressed up. Winter times, evening vibes, nighttime scent will suit anybody who can wear this fragrance. Don't let the fragrance wear you. Don't wear it for compliments though, especially if you're not going to be around like-minded fragrances who have already progressed through their fragrance game. I've kept these fragrances so I can give you maybe a few references. You have Guerlain Tobacco Honey, which I've reviewed. Tobacco Oud by the House of Tom Ford. Dirty, ashy tobacco whiskey overload. Naxos, I have not put the bottle for the dawn by the House of Serge, but Naxos is here. Herod, which we shall talk about in just a bit. Enigma Creation E from the House of Roger Parfums. Dior Turbo Color. Over here on the rotating platform you have Amber Sultan, Ancre de Fumée and Chergui, the fragrances which I do have at present from the House of Serge Lutens. Herod, as I mentioned, the bottle here by the House of Parfum de Marly is, I'd reference a fragrance more easy to fall in love with as a tobacco scent and a compliment magnet, but this would be a step above, i.e. Chergui would be a step above if you really wanted to up your tobacco game. However, for a mature, very few. Do let me know your thoughts. Also let me know if you already have this gem of composition in your arsenal, or if you're interested in at least giving it a try after watching this review. The one note that I would like to emphasize on is, as I mentioned earlier, the first sniff, if you've never smelled Chergui, or if you haven't been in the artisan or the niche fragrance space, with the more complex, heavy, full, kind of more complex compositions, this may come off-putting to some. However, even if that happens, I do not suggest you purchase it, but keep coming back to it. Keep smelling it though. And your nose will eventually kind of come around the fragrance, and you'll definitely fall in love with this one. Chergui is a must-have in every fragrance connoisseur's collection. So I would like to show you the color of the juice for Chergui and Cran de Fumée. Amber Sultan, a lighter shade, more of the amber orange kind of resinous look to the juice. So as I was mentioning, Guerlain Tobacco Honey as the color of the juice, rich, opulent. I just love the color of these tobacco scents, the way they come across. Dior Turbo Color, a lighter shade, perhaps more ambery. Both are extremely honeyed. That is Tobacco Honey by the House of Guerlain, and Turbo Color by the House of Dior, the Privé collection. Tobacco Oud, another one of my favorite tobacco compositions by the House of Tom Ford. Rumored to be discontinued, not sure, it's still retailing in outlets. This is Naxos by the House of Serge, another kind of Frag-rant darling, if I may call it. You have Herod, that I'd highly recommend for people who are not ready for Chergui yet. We have Tobacco Mandarin by the House of Byredo. And again, the color of the juice, it says it all. The color of the juice says it all, really. Enigma Creation E, it has this colored bottle, so I cannot comment on the color of the juice, but the bottle is magnificent nevertheless. This is the Parfum Cologne for Enigma, the House of Roger Dove. I do intend on getting the Parfum, Pour Homme Parfum, which I suppose is a notch above. Obviously, we have Amber Sultan, and that's the color. But it is an amber fragrance after all. And so it has the resinous tones of amber itself. You have these two gem of bottles. You have Cran de Fumée, which we shall inshallah soon review. I hope we shall soon review this. This is Chergui, the one that we've reviewed today. I hope you can see that, and look at the color of the juice. I mean, if that doesn't say it, nothing will. It's black, like kind of dark, really dark, resinous, but it does come off dry, not very resinous. That's the sprayer, and it's not a bad sprayer. I do like the sprays, I do like the bottles. They come in a kind of splash bottle format, but then you can add the atomizers come with the fragrance bottles, and that's one thing I like about Serge Lutens. Do share your experiences. Don't forget to comment. Feel free to ask me any questions, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my capability. That's it for my review. Until the next time, your host Karamullah Kadwani signing out.